Welcome, guys, and welcome to the 3 non-negotiables I give every single client when they first come on board. Now, I'm going to caveat this with most people don't necessarily have a fitness problem. What they have is more of a standards problem. Because most people I've worked with in the past, over the last 14 years, once I've got them to do these 3 things properly and consistently, actually everything starts to begin to change and they start to make progress consistently. Right, I'm Joe. I've been coaching people for 14 years. I've been on the gym floor, have my own gym, and I'm an online coach speaking to you right now. And these are the 3 non-negotiables that I get everyone to cover off right when they onboard to make sure we get on the right footing straight off the bat. And this isn't a negotiation, it's not a workaround, it's a system we implement real fast. Because it doesn't matter, once you get these 3 things in place, it doesn't matter whether you run a business, you've got kids, you work 60-hour weeks, there's family stress, whatever. Once you have these 3 things in place, you begin to see the results pay off for the work you're putting in. And I can honestly say, the people that implement these get the result. The people that don't, not that they don't get the result, but it takes them a hell of a lot longer, and/or they don't quite ever reach the place that they knew they could get to. So let's kick off non-negotiable number 1. And it's a simple one. It's structured training with a minimum of 3 sessions and a maximum of 5. The reason we put a window on it and a range is because if it's going to be a busy week, we lower that expectation to 3 as a baseline. And if it's going to be a good week, then you can hit 5 and feel good. However, if I set you out to go and hit 5 sessions a week and you can only hit 3, you end up feeling like you failed. So that non-negotiable structured training, it's following a fixed pattern, not random workouts, and not training when you feel like it. Those 3 baseline minimum sessions are diarized in to your weekly structure, and they've been agreed with either your spouse or your kids or whatever it might be around your responsibilities. And 3 of those sessions are probably going to be fairly full body-esque, because that means that that's going to be a non-negotiable. The other 2 could either be 2 cardio conditioning sessions or 2 sessions that are going to be picking up those lagging areas that if we don't tick off and don't hit, it's not too bad because they're getting picked up in the full bodies anyway. But fundamentally, the 3 sessions are the baseline fitting, and that's the non-negotiable. And the top end is going to be 5. So we then manage and have managed your expectation of what is achievable and doable, rather than doing 2/3 of the work, feeling like you failed, whereas actually you've done 2/3 of really good shit. Let's make sure that gets recognized. And the key thing here is like, if you can't repeat it for 6 to 8 weeks, it's probably going to be too much. And that's 6 to 8 weeks of not perfection, not ideal situations and scenarios. It's 6 to 8 weeks of the kids being ill, work being stressed, boss going off on you, big projects to deliver, whatever it might be. So it has to be repeatable. Non-negotiable number 2, nutrition that actually matches your output. Now, I've just had a conversation with someone, and actually, it's a really important point, is you already have a diet, you already have a nutritional strategy, it's just not serving you to get the goal that you want. Fundamentally, your food has to match your training. So what we do is we just take the diet you currently have and we make minute changes to get that closer, more congruent to the outcome that we want. It's not a fucking massive overhaul. What it is, though, is a slight trade-off so that we're making progress in the right direction. And as that compounds, you start to see the progress, you start to see the payoff of that nutritional change and that nutritional adherence. And you start to do it more because you like how you feel, because you get more energy, you see results, and that in itself starts to compound. And within this non-negotiable as well, it's not a Monday to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you can do whatever the fuck you like. It's a Monday to Sunday. How do we structure our consumption of food to make sure we're driving in the right direction to the goal and outcome that you fucking fundamentally want, right? I don't want it, you do. And what we're doing is tweaking those nutritional inputs to make sure that outcome is more predictable. And within that nutritional system, it's making sure we hit our protein. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean we have to track, but we want to understand our protein intake. Is it taking up roughly 1/3 to 2/3-ish, is on the high side, but 2/3-ish of our day? If it is, fucking hell, you're winning. Now, and if you're not a tracker, that's fine. You don't have to necessarily track calories, but understanding and bringing awareness is super key. So inside the program, one of the strategies we actually implement is food journaling. Snap a photo, upload it to the coaching app, and we can then see how consistent your food intake is in line with what we're looking for. So that's less about tracking, more about awareness of the food that you're inputting, so that then the output is high levels of energy, better training, equally that brings in better recovery, which means better training, which ultimately means better results for you. And it's not about extremes, it's literally about taking the guesswork out and starting to understand the data that we're starting to be delivered by you, and making sure we're making small slight changes in the direction that we are wanting to travel. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be directionally correct. And non-negotiable number 3, daily standards. And this is around movement and routine more than anything. And that's steps, morning routine, structure, and daily movement throughout the day. That's not exercise based, it's slight habit changes to make sure that we're fundamentally moving the body a little bit more. Because we can train 3 times a week, and then if we're moving plenty throughout the week as well, we're pretty much ticked off. We don't need to then think about having to hit our cardio targets or anything like that, because actually high intensity movement on a daily basis, walking to the shops with a purpose, walking around doing our weekly shop with a purpose, with intent, focus, rather than ambling, is going to be way more conducive to real life fitness than some tedious, boring cardio session where you bang Netflix on and just switch off. Because that ultimately is where it's then non-negotiables number 1 and 2 start to become more adherent, because number 3 is in line and in place because it's structured and ultimately breeds that consistency. But this one fundamentally brings those 2 together, and that's the whole point. We've got our training, we've got the nutrition set up, and then we've got the routines and habits around those 2 things and around the rest of our life to make sure everything works synergistically, congruently, towards that thing that you are wanting to achieve, which, let's be honest, it's looking good, feeling good, performing well, because those 3 things equal pretty fucking good physique. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still pitfalls in these 3 non-negotiables, because if you miss out one of them, the whole process slows down. If you miss out 2 of them, well, in reality, you're back to square one, you're going to fall off the wagon, and you're not going to make the progress that you want at all. And you're going to stay exactly where you are. But these 3 non-negotiables, when you then tack on the accountability of coaching, is where you hit that golden triangle of execution, accountability, and feel-good factor, which drives the consistency, because ultimately you see the compounding effect of what that brings in terms of the result. Because ultimately, you don't need a new plan, you don't need a new structure, you don't need a new diet. We need to tweak it to make sure you're following the simple rules in line with the outcome that you're wanting to achieve. And if you do that, you're in a really good place, and you're going to make consistent progress. And you might not get to where you want to be in 6 to 8 weeks, but that's not what the fuck we're about. We're about long-term progress to make sure that we can sustain the physique we've built, not just for a year, but for 10 years, for 15 years, for 20 years, because that's the real flex. Not just feeling good for 8 weeks or a holiday and then looking like shit 10 days later because you've got no muscle mass and you've gorged it all away on shit food and beer. Now, don't get me wrong, I like shit food and beer, but everything's got a place and everything's got balance. But for you, the actual takeaway from this whole thing is look at those 3 non-negotiables. Which one are you doing and which ones aren't you doing? And if you're not doing one, get pen and paper and write down how you would go about right now restructuring that. And if you're unsure as to how to do that, hit the link below, drop me a WhatsApp, hit the link below in the comments, hit the link below in the description, and that'll take you directly to my chat where I can help you in a little bit more detail. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you in the next one.